Guys, we have some breaking news. There is a lot of talks, discussions going on with Donald Trump, things that are happening. Holy smokes, guys. What is going on? What is happening to our country? Holy smokes. I'm at a loss for words and definitely wow. So guys, I'm going to share this with you, and holy smokes, like this is pretty ridiculous, and I can't believe it. I'm not understanding a lot of it, but at the same time, how many of you guys would say you saw this coming? I definitely for sure didn't, just because number one, they had a lot of allegations against them, they had a lot of things against them, and how are they going to pin it on them? How are they going to get it to where he lost? But look, they did. And that should scare all of us, because yes, while some people say, well, he was guilty, I'm going to tell you something, guys. This has blown my mind. 34 charges. This is blowing my mind. I'm at a loss for words, and I don't know what to say, but guys, check this out, because this is definitely, this is big. This is big. I don't know what to say. This is let me speed it up. I don't want to keep you guys waiting, but holy smoke. Deborah was good. Okay, so we're going to ask you a poll.
Mr. Trump, what do you have to say to the American people?
Mr. Trump, how is it going to be convicted of felons?
Are you worried about going to jail?
This was a disgrace. This was a rigged trial by a conflicted judge who was corrupt. It's a rigged trial, a disgrace. They wouldn't give us a venue change. We were at 5% or 6% in this district, in this area. This was a rigged, disgraceful trial. But the real verdict is going to be November 5th by the people. And they know what happened here, and everybody knows what happened here. You have a Soros-backed DA, and the whole thing. We didn't do a thing wrong. I'm a very innocent man, and it's okay. I'm fighting for our country. I'm fighting for our Constitution. Our whole country is being rigged right now. This was done by the Biden administration in order to wound or hurt an opponent, a political opponent. And I think it's just a disgrace. And we'll keep fighting. We'll fight till the end, and we'll win, because our country's gone to hell. We don't have the same country anymore. We have a divided mess. We're a nation in decline, serious decline. Millions and millions of people pouring into our country right now from prisons and from mental institutions, terrorists, and they're taking over our country. We have a country that's in big trouble. But this was a rigged decision right from day one, with a conflicted judge who should have never been allowed to try this case, never. And we will fight for our Constitution. This is long from over. Thank you very much.
Why should voters vote for convicted felons?
Are you going to drop out?
You believe in the rule of law?
You
Guys,
trust the jury?
People are literally out there saying, are you going to stop running? Are you going to stop? Like, this is terrible, guys. And the fact that they have found him guilty on all 34. It's not like hey, we got you on a few things. It's like we're getting you on everything. And it's just mind-blowing, guys, to see that they could actually find him guilty on every single account. And I don't know, guys. It worries me that our country is at a place where they're literally, if you are not with them, then you're against them, and they're going to grill you. They're going to get you, guys. And it breaks my heart because, number one, how many of you guys know that literally this is just wow. But I want to show you this, guys. This is minutes ago. If you're just tuning in, I know, get ready. Your stomach's going to turn because of what you're getting ready to hear. This come out just a few minutes ago. We're right here on the top news showing you exactly what's going on. But guys, get ready because I don't know if your stomach can handle it. This is pretty disturbing, okay? You got right here. Check this out.
What price does he pay politically, or does he not pay politically? As at a meantime, what price does he pay politically, or does he not pay politically? As that appeals process, plays out, and he now calls to the American people to deliver their own verdicts in November.
Well, I think that the American people will be struck by this, as we are all struck by it in different ways. I, as a former prosecutor and a judge who knows the state courts and who knows the state law, I know that this is riddled with reversible error. I know that there was no basis to charge this crime, this alleged crime, and to resurrect dead misdemeanors based upon non-unanimous federal violations of the election law or of the tax law. So, I mean, you've got that, but there's also a gut punch to the criminal justice system in the United States. People realize we are no longer safe anymore.
Whoa! That's exactly what some of you guys have said in the comments. We are not safe anymore. If you don't get in line and you don't support the ways of the Democrat Party, the strong left wing, remember, he went to the Bronx. He got thousands of people. He got people to support. They were mad. They threw a fit about it. They couldn't believe how many people supported him. Why? Because they know our economy is crap. Our country is crap. And what did they try to do? They found him guilty because they paid off all these people. Guys, a shock. No one's safe no more.
And it's because of the progressive left agenda of making sure that we don't keep people in jail. And, they're out there with 33 arrests, but, they're still assaulting people or violently attacking people down the street here. But now we've got one of the most famous individuals in the world, a former president of the United States, who can be taken down by a George Soros-funded prosecutor on a crime that doesn't exist, where not one person put his finger anywhere near that bookkeeping. And now they're going to return a verdict and say, oh, he's guilty. He's definitely guilty. This is a jury pool made out of 85 to 90% of the people are anti-Trump, not pro-anybody, anti-Trump. That's the jury pool. We knew it. We have a judge who wasn't picked out of the wheel or out of the drum, as all of us judges are. And he was a judge who was selected, not just for the Trump organization, not just for the this case, but also for the another case that involves the who was the guy who was the Bannon case as well. This is an anti-Trump judge, an anti-Trump prosecutor. America is going to respond to this. This is a gut punch. We want to see politicians fight. We don't want to see what they do in third world countries, to have one side start indicting and jailing the other side. This is not American. This is not who we are. To see this happen before our eyes, when we know that this is not legitimate, when a defendant was not advised of the crimes that he was charged with. They don't even know what the crimes are until we get to the charge to the jury, as if the prosecution and the judge, with a wink and a nod, said, hey, I'll give you that old accomplice testimony. Even though we didn't charge Donald Trump with aiding and abetting anyone else, I'll throw it in as a matter of law. He's an accomplice. And I'll throw in those federal election violations. So they'll have to say, yeah, Donald Trump must have done it too. And I'll throw in a hooker and a guy who's a serial perjurer. This is lunacy. And I think that any red-blooded American who sees this is going to understand this isn't what we do to our political enemies. This is what they do in kangaroo courts and third world countries. God help America after what I've seen in the last few weeks.
Hey, Sean Hannity here.
Oh my gosh. Could it have been said any better? How many of you guys know that, oh my gosh, this is something that literally just come out a few minutes ago, guys. This was the most breaking news, because they still cannot understand how all of these anti-Trump people ended up in the jury, how everybody who's against Trump, they don't want Trump, they want him in jail. I think one of you guys actually said, what are y'all going to do when he actually goes to jail? Honestly, guys, what are we going to do? I don't know what's going to happen. How long is he going to go to jail for? That is some pretty shocking news. And to even just, wow. But you know what? They're having a field day with this. The Democrats are looking at this like a celebrated win. They're saying, we've got it. We've done what we wanted to do. And guess what? We told you he was guilty. He is guilty. And we're just going to keep, like right here, guys, even this right here, 24 minutes ago, guys, 24 minutes ago, right here on the screen. Check this out, guys. This is real live news.
You heard the retired judge say there, American history, legal history. People are going to be talking about this 100 years from now. Well, we're going to turn things over to Teresa Perello, who's been talking to people there on the streets in Lower Manhattan. Teresa, the reaction that you've gotten from people so far?
Yeah, not so surprising, Bianca and Steve, because Collect Palm Park, which is the park directly across the street, is sort of split in two at this point. One side are Trump supporters, the others are not. But I can tell you, this verdict, the fact that the former president guilty on all counts, is really the talk of the town. People are stopping by, asking us. As a matter of fact, the mail carrier just walked by. She said, what's all the commotion about? We told her, and she was quite surprised as well, as she's out here on her mail route. I mean, that's really New York for you. People get information by word of mouth as they walk around, and that's what's happening. So I'll step out of the way so you can see Collect Palm Park behind me. As I mentioned, one side is, put it this way, one side anti-Trump, one side pro-Trump. There is the side where you see lock him up and Don the felon. That would obviously be the anti-Trump side. One person told me, finally.
Guys, can I just say this? You've got people, the guy, Cohen, stole money, embezzled money from the company, lied on the jury stand, lied in court, and he's not even being prosecuted. And this stuff with Donald Trump, the hush money, all this stuff that happened how long ago, and they're trying, oh my gosh.
Some accountability. Another person directly behind him on the other side of the fence screaming to us, lies, lies, it's all lies. They believe this is directly tied to the former president's political ambitions, and they say it is an effort to keep him from the White House. Once again, take a listen.
It's been a long time that he's gotten away with just about anything. Finally, some accountability. That's how it feels.
It's a very sad day for America. That's all.
He got away with everything? Oh my. Who is lying to these people?
I'm gonna say.
Why do you feel that way?
Because this is political prosecution and there's absolutely nothing behind this case. And I hope they appeal it.
I'm kind of shocked that they actually found him guilty.
Why are you shocked?
Because people of his magnitude don't usually see the inside of a jail. And it still remains to be seen that he's actually going to see the inside of a jail. So with that being said, the jury's still up, or if he's actually going to see the inside of a jail.
What's interesting is across the street, there's a good mix of people who have been here every day and those who only, as they told us, came down to witness history. Now, again, for those who are saying that this is an effort to keep the former president from the White House, we do know he has been competitive in the polls as of late. We also know that this conviction won't keep him from running for the White House. It can't even keep him from being elected as well, if that should happen. He only, in New York, can't vote for himself, although once he serves his sentence, whatever that might be, we'll find that out mid-July, then his voting rights would be restored. That's according to the NYCLU. But again, he could win here in New York or anywhere else around the country, and he could even serve from prison. It remains to be seen, Steve and Bianca, if the party would want to replace him. Again, being that the polls are looking in some states in his favor, it remains to be seen if that would actually happen. But here, again, a lot of his supporters have decided to wait this out. They wanted to be here to see this, and they wanted to try to get a glimpse of the former president, although to our understanding, he has not come out and said anything. That's the latest from Lower Manhattan. Back to you guys in the studio.
That's right. We've seen the video of him heading back, presumably to Trump Tower or the airport, heading back to Mar-a-Lago. Either way, over the past couple minutes.
Guys, what is our nation coming to when they want to make him seem like the worst person ever? They want to make him seem like everything is done is terrible. And guess what? He literally He literally is, oh, wow. This, oh, wow. Guys. Holy smokes. Guys, holy smokes. Check this out, guys. We've got some major breaking news. This just come out. Holy smokes. I got to share this with you guys.
We've got a verdict. Ari Melbar.
We are looking at count 1, guilty. Count 2, guilty. Count 3, guilty. Count 4, guilty. Count 5, guilty. Those are the first 5 counts coming out of this jury finding Donald J. Trump.
The difference is that we now know as a country what it is to put a former president on trial and to see that trial to fruition. That is something that was hypothetical before we ever had this guy as a former president. But now we have lived through it, and we know that the court process can work. A defendant who is a former president can be tried as a normal defendant. Again, the appeals process will go on. The sentencing process will go on, and those will all be pressure points. But the legal system in this country treats any former president as any citizen. We've seen that today, and this jury deserves to be thanked for their efforts and to be protected.
What?
To be protected from the kinds of attacks and intimidation and recrimination that the president.
Thanked for participating in a corrupt sentencing.
And his allies have tried to bring down on this process.
Let me just tell folks
Sure.
what's happened. What Ari said or Andrew said would happen has happened. Judge Merchan went juror to juror to juror. They all concurred with the verdict that Donald Trump is guilty on all 34 criminal counts, 34 felonies. And they have been thanked for their service, Ari.
Yeah, what you just reported and what Rachel was reminding us is actually existing in a microcosm within the trial, because the jury is being polled, a jury of the peers of the defendant, as is his right. So that's legally something where the defense counsel is asked, do you want to make sure? They almost always, virtually always say yes. And so we're told, and we're looking at our notes here, pardon me for looking down, but our reporters are seeing the defendant, Donald Trump, is looking at the jury, is watching them as they are individually polled. But this is, as Rachel reminded us, someone who has been held in contempt for what he has said and done against other people and witnesses in the system.
This, to me, guys, is nothing more than just a bad thing that has happened in our country. And guess what? This it breaks my heart, guys, to see this kind of stuff happening. People all over are going crazy over this. They are literally trying to find out what is going to happen. Is he actually going to jump out of the election race? Is he still going to continue to run? What is the people saying? This is what
we want to go live to CBS 2's Derek Waller with reaction from near the court as we continue our coverage. We want to go live to CBS.
Look right here, a tweet posted by Joe, or not a tweet, but it's by X. Joe Biden, there's only one way to keep Donald Trump out of the Oval Office at the ballot box. Look at this, guys. What is going on? And here's the thing. You're wondering, what is the sentencing? Some of you guys are saying, well, Trump won't drop out. He could run in prison if he needed to. What did he expect is going to happen? All of this, and what do you think he's like? He's going to go to jail, and that's just what it's like. This is no shocking. I'm sorry. Guys, these people, like Larry's saying, is going to pay a heavy price. But this is what Joe Biden said.
CBS 2's Derek Waller with reaction from near the courthouse in Lower Manhattan. Derek, what have you seen?
Christine Maurice, good evening to you. You can probably hear behind me those anti-Trump protesters. They're going through every count and noting that each one of those counts landed with a guilty verdict. You can hear them right now. We're standing at Worth and Center Streets, and basically we're just south of the courthouse. North of us, Center Street is closed, shut down to traffic, of course, because of the historic nature of today's proceedings. Let's show you some video that we just shot a few moments ago showing some of the crowds that are stationed just outside outside the courthouse. I wouldn't say it's a large group of people, but certainly you do have protesters, both pro-Trump and anti-Trump. You see that sign there. Trump is guilty. And then down the block, actually down Worth Street, a little bit closer toward the federal courthouses, you've got some pro-Trump protesters with their own signs as well. Police, we've noticed, have been trying to keep them separate. At one point, you did have somebody with a Trump flag run through this anti-Trump protest, and you saw the police respond to that. So far, relatively peaceful here. We did have a moment to speak with some of the protesters. Here's a little bit of what they had to say.
Let's see what they say right here.
This is criminal, and what he did is really serious, and it was election interference, and I'm really glad the jury came in with
election interference. Did they not see what
their verdict?
We're both in shock, but I think it's actually going to help them. I think it'll bring attention to what a farce this was, and we're going to add support, and we're still going to win.
Wow. So as you saw there, you've got two people who are super engaged in the political system, and they're out here voicing their opinions. We're going to stay out here and monitor the situation outside the courtroom. Christine Maurice, back to you.
Okay, Derek Waller, thank you so much. We're going to go back to the chopper shot, chopper 2 over the east side of Manhattan, and the former president is approaching his home there, Trump Tower, that is in the mid-50s, right off of Fifth Avenue between 5th and Madison, getting to his home.
Building.
You can only imagine what that ride was like coming uptown after this kind of day, historic day and deflating kind of day for the former president.
Well, we heard Alice say that he did look a bit red-faced once they learned that the jury reached a verdict. And then she also mentioned that he just looked straight ahead while the various guilty verdicts were read on each of the 34 counts. So it is a very long trip from the courthouse over to the east side. There's the former president right there getting out of his SUV with his team surrounding him. We also saw his son, Eric Trump, at the courthouse. You can see him waving there to some of his, we would assume, his supporters. And as he continues to be very defiant, even in regards to this jury convicting him on all 34 counts today in this criminal case.
Also worth noting that within a couple minutes, he put out a fundraising letter right there 2 minutes before he spoke to the cameras. It was out there, and you can expect a lot more of that. A defiant and, quite frankly, angry disposition as he came out of the courtroom, and there he is waving to supporters and whomever there on Fifth Avenue.
Oh my God!
As he gets ready to go inside.
What justice is served? Our country's in the worst shape. We're being overrun with immigrants. Inflation is terrible, and our country's in a crap hole. And you guys want Joe Biden to still be president? He cares more about other countries than our own country.
A lot of the same body language that we've seen from him over and over again, even on the campaign trail, with his fist up in the air, thanking his supporters, and he is continuing along that same path.
And calling the whole thing a witch hunt, as he has from the start. All right, there's the former president getting to his home. Meantime, crowds gathered after the verdict in Times Square. We also have a crowd right there. That looks like...
How many of you guys are so mad that this happened that you're going to make it your goal, that you're going to tell everybody and get your family and friends, you're going to go out there and you're going to make sure to vote for Trump? Let me know in the comments below.
The other side of Fifth Avenue from his home, right?
Exactly.
And guys, let me say this one more thing. If you think that this trial was a joke, that it was nonsense, if you agree that Donald Trump is not guilty, smash that like button.
And it's tough to tell what that looks like there. Is Dan Rice available in Chopper 2? Dan, are you up there? Can you tell us what you see?
Yes, Maurice, what you saw when the former president came out of his SUV there, he walked over on 56th Street over to Fifth Avenue, and this is part of the crowd that he was waving to. This line, it's a little hard to see from the angle we have, as you can imagine, a lot of choppers up here, but this line extends from 56th Street almost up to 57th Street, the entire west side of Fifth Avenue, lined with the supporters, people trying to get a glimpse of the former president, but that's the crowd that you can see there that was waiting for a glimpse of the former president as he came back to Trump Tower here on Fifth Avenue.
And Dan, you can tell those are supporters, not protesters?
We got here so quick, Maurice. It was a little hard to see. Most of them seem to be supporters, but again, we didn't get a good look around the other side of the building to see if there are other signs or what have you out there. But it appeared to be a pro-Trump crowd as he approached them from 56th Street.
Got it. Okay.
And right here on this video, you can see it just like we can, guys. 200 people, 100 people within the last 10 seconds have liked this video because, number one, they believe Trump is not guilty.
A good amount of news media as well there on the corner that we can see.
It appears to be peaceful. 56th and 5th Avenue right there. All right, Dan, thank you. Meantime, the crowds did gather after the verdict in Times Square. CBS 2's Zania Maldonado is in Times Square right now with what people are saying there. Zania?
Well, Maurice and Christine, we've been talking to folks, here in Times Square. These are people from not only across the city, but the state, the country, even international folks, all weighing in with reaction to today's verdict. The first time a U.S. former president has been convicted of a crime. So, of course, a lot of people with a lot to say. And what I can add, though, is that the common denominator amongst all of the folks we spoke to, though, is confidence they say they have in the U.S. justice system. Take a listen.
I mean, it doesn't surprise me knowing Donald Trump. At the end of the day, I don't know if it's going to make a difference. He still may get reelected. Our country's kind of in a weird place, but it's disappointing, I guess. That's all I can say is it's disappointing.
It shouldn't matter who you are or what you do. If you do the crime, you deserve what's coming to you.
Everybody got to, they got to follow the law. The law's not made just for certain people. It's made for everybody to follow.
It's insane. That's never happened before in history. So this is something that we're living, and I don't even know how this is going to turn out. I'm shocked. Honestly, I'm shocked.
And as you just heard, yes, some people say they're shocked. Others will say they're not shocked to see this come out. But another thing that people are adding is now they're going to be on the edge of their seats over the next couple of weeks, seeing how all of this plays out. And of course, we're going to stay on top of it. For now, we're live from Times Square. Zania Maldonado, CBS 2 News.
Zania, thank you.
Guys, people already know the crap that the left wings have brought. They already know the crap that they have put, and they have people have came in and they've rigged this thing to go against Donald Trump. Several of you guys in the comments have all said the same thing. Hey, we know it was all a rig. It was guilty before he even went. But here's what breaks my heart is knowing this, that after that, knowing that this literally is what's happening it's just terrible, guys. Knowing that this right here is that it could happen. And even though there's so much more other convictions, there's so much more other things happening, they're literally going to be the ones to put a felony on Donald Trump. They're saying Donald Trump's going to serve prison time. And guess what? If you thought they were the only ones, literally, this is just come out minutes ago, guys, minutes ago. Right here on the screen. Check this out, guys, because everybody is being affected.
We've got a lot to get to tonight. We'll have full coverage of the weather hitting East Texas. But first, breaking news. You saw it here on CBS 19. Former President Donald Trump is found guilty on all counts in his hush money trial. He is the first former U.S. president to be convicted of felony crimes. Trump was charged with falsifying business records in connection with money his former fixer, Michael Cohen, paid adult film star Stormy Daniels ahead of the 2016 election. This was to keep her quiet about an alleged encounter. Prosecutors argued that Trump reimbursed Cohen but disguised the payments as legal expenses. This is what the former president had to say.
This was a rigged, disgraceful trial. The real verdict is going to be November 5th by the people. And they know what happened here, and everybody knows what happened here.
Here in Texas, Republicans are standing by the former president. Governor Greg Abbott is calling it a sham show trial. Minutes after that verdict was read, the governor tweeted, quote, "The kangaroo court will never stand on appeal. Americans deserve better than a sitting U.S. president weaponizing our justice system against a political opponent, all to win an election," end quote. We also got a response from Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton. He calls the trial a sham, saying in part, quote, "As Attorney General of Texas, I will unleash every tool at my disposal to fight this blatant corruption and political persecution spewing from New York and the Biden administration.
Wow.
Unquote. This news is a first for the country and certainly something that will impact and shape the future. Right now, we are getting reaction from some of our state representatives here in East Texas. Our Matt Schaefer represents House District 6, which includes parts of Smith County. Matt, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Well, Matt, let's get right to it. What are your initial reactions to this guilty verdict?
Justice is supposed to be blind, and this case was purely political. You just have to ask yourself, if it wasn't Donald Trump, would the prosecutor have even brought the charges? And the answer is no. Alvin Bragg, the prosecutor, met with Biden officials 3 times before he announced the indictments. He was working directly with the Biden administration to weaponize this trial against a political opponent. I believe the American people are smart. I believe they're going to see right through this. They're going to see it's not fair. And I actually believe that on appeal, this will be reversed. And it certainly won't have the political impact that they think it will. I believe Donald Trump is going to be stronger, and I believe he's going to be elected president again.
Guys, I don't understand how that Cohen guy can literally lie, steal money, get on a stand, and yet again still walk away like nothing ever happened. And people are over here literally getting Donald Trump, and oh my gosh, guys, what is going to happen? Is he going to prison? Let us know down in the comments below, because yes, sick to my stomach. When I heard the news, like, I was literally sick to my stomach. And guys, I just literally don't understand. I don't understand this. This is breaking news 29 minutes ago. Like, my ears are on fire right now because
News out of New York City. Former President Donald J. Trump found guilty on all counts in his hush money trial. Trump now the first former president to be convicted of felony crimes.
34 counts. The jury reached the verdict after nearly 10 hours of deliberations.
And we want to go ahead and take you live outside of the courtroom, where it has been eerily quiet since that announcement was made. But you can see there on the ground an increased security, a police presence as large crowds start to gather. People actually have been waiting for the conclusion of this historic criminal trial for more than a month.
The jury found Trump guilty of falsifying business records to cover up hush money payments tied to a scheme to bury stories that might torpedo his 2016 bid for the White House. At the heart of the charges were reimbursements paid to Trump's former lawyer and fixer, Michael Cohen, for a $130,000 payment to adult film star Stormy Daniels in exchange for her silence about an alleged affair. Trump defiant, speaking moments after the verdict.
It's a rigged trial, a disgrace. They wouldn't give us a venue change. We were at 5% or 6% in this district, in this area. This was a rigged, disgraceful trial. The real verdict is going to be November 5th by the people. And they know what happened here, and everybody knows what happened here. You have a Soros-backed DA. And the whole thing, we didn't do a thing wrong. I'm a very innocent man.
And we are expecting to hear from DA Alvin Bragg there in Manhattan in just a few minutes. So please stay with us throughout this hour. We will bring that to you as it happens. But Trump's sentencing is scheduled for July 11th, just days before the start of the Republican National Convention, July 15th. The presumptive GOP presidential nominee now faces up to 4 years behind bars, even though it's believed the former president.
Okay, 4 years behind bars. How many of you guys actually think that's going to happen? They're saying July 11th, 10 a.m., that he could potentially spend 4 years behind bars. How does that affect our country? How does that affect the election? Let us know.
The president will not serve any jail time.
Yeah, and on that note, we want to bring in Fox 5's chief legal correspondent, Katie Barlow, who is joining us now. And Katie, I think the one thing that stuck out there when we heard the former president react to this outside the courtroom, he said that the real verdict is going to be decided on November 5th. And in a way, he is not wrong in the sense that this is one of 4 trials. The fact that pretty much a felon can run for president, a felon can serve as president. So really, at the core, what does this verdict mean?
Well, Angie, you're absolutely right in that nothing in the Constitution prevents an individual who is convicted of a crime of both running for the highest office in the land or serving as president. But as Trump pointed out today, the real trial will be on November 5th. That is a political trial. This one had all the trappings of the American criminal justice system, including a robust defense team here that defended the president throughout the duration of the trial, a judge presiding over the trial, and the prosecution. And what today's verdict really means is a vindication of the prosecution's theory that the former president contributed to the falsification of business records or caused the falsification of business records in the state of New York. And it's also rebuking the defense's theory here, trying to undercut the prosecution's star witness, Michael Cohen, former Trump fixer Michael Cohen, who's the one who paid off Stormy Daniels and was reimbursed for that hush money payment that was made in the days leading up to the 2016 election. And of course, Michael Cohen is an admitted liar. He has serious credibility problems, but this jury determined that he was credible, at least on this point.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. This dude has lied and lied and lied and lied, found caught in lying. He was literally doing all this lying and they still found him credible. If that right there doesn't tell you how twisted our criminal justice system is, that right there should do
the jury there really taking its time. And even though I know it was 10 hours, it appears, Katie, as you saw, they took their jobs very seriously, coming back with questions yesterday after 4 hours of deliberations and then more deliberations today before reaching a unanimous decision there on those 34 counts. When it comes to what's next, I mean, more than likely here, Trump is going to appeal in this case. So how does that play out?
So two things happen next. First is the sentencing, which, as you pointed out, is just days before the Republican National Convention. In order for a sentencing to happen, both sides are going to make arguments about what they feel is the appropriate sentence here, both Alvin Bragg's prosecution team and Trump's defense team. They will make arguments to the judge about what they feel is appropriate in this case. Of course, as you mentioned, former President Trump is facing a maximum penalty of 4 years for each felony conviction here. It is unlikely that the former president would face that amount of time, if any jail time at all. But all of that is ultimately up to the judge presiding over this case, Judge Juan Marchand, who has indicated a hesitancy to put Trump in jail. In fact, when this issue came up with Trump's 10 violations of the gag order, the judge said he did not want to put the former president and perhaps likely next president in jail behind bars.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Katie, did we
Marchand on July 11th. He'll take feedback from both the prosecution and defense, and the probation office will compile a report as well that will be reviewed by the judge in his sentencing decision.
And just going forward, just if we can get a little more clarity, because I couldn't find it out there necessarily. When it comes to that gag order, is that still a big question mark? Does that still stay in place?
The gag order is done now, the gag order related to trial and the witnesses at trial. Trump is obviously free to say whatever he wants, but Kenneth and Angie, both to answer your questions about what happens next and the appeal process, Trump's team will almost certainly appeal here. So even if Trump were to be sentenced on July 11th to jail time, which I agree is unlikely, it is likely that all of that would get a big giant pause button for the moment while his team appeals. And there are numerous attempts at trying to get a mistrial declared, both based on the type of evidence that was allowed in, including some of Stormy Daniels' testimony that went well beyond some of the questions asked, some of those details that we talked about over the course of the weeks of the trial, and the sufficiency of the evidence that was used to convict the former president, and the judge's application of the law here, which is not at all straightforward. This is not a run-of-the-mill case in the state of New York, and there are just numerous bases to make an appeal, which Trump's team will certainly do. So even if he were sentenced to jail time on July 11th, very unlikely that he would begin to serve that before the November 11th election.
And we will certainly follow every single development. We've been saying this for weeks now. As you know, Katie, this is a big deal. We cannot underscore enough how historic this is, that for the first time we have a former president convicted here on a felony crime. Katie Barlow, thank you for your...
On felon charges a first time a president convicted. Guys, what is this daggum world coming to? But just real fast, 6 minutes ago, oh my gosh, guys, check this out. This is pretty big. Wow.
All right, Judge, I want to bring in Professor Jonathan Turley, who has been in the courtroom today. So you're fresh out of there. Can you give us any of the flavor? Because when we thought that the court was going to break for the day, it seems like President Trump and his team seemed relaxed, that he was smiling. Maybe they thought, okay, this jury is still struggling. They're going to leave tonight not having made a decision. Then we get word that verdict is coming in. What can you tell us about the mood inside the courthouse?
It was one of the most bizarre moments I've had in a courtroom, and I was just observing. The judge had just said that the jury could not reach a decision and that we would be dismissed for the day. Some reporters actually gathered their stuff and was starting to leave. And then the judge came and basically said, my mistake, we just got a note saying there's a verdict. Throughout this time, you could feel the building pressure in that courtroom. The one person that didn't seem to register it was the former president. He had been chatting with counsel. He didn't show any emotion at all as this mantra of guilty verdicts was read. And there was a great, I think that this is one of those things that is really embodies the entire Trump era. There were people who clearly were thrilled by the result, and there were people that will be very sad by it. I was saddened to watch it. I disagree with this verdict. I think, as I've said before, that this case was legally unfounded. When they were reading those guilty verdicts, the one thing that we didn't know is really what he was found guilty of. Because if you remember, the judge allowed the jury to find guilt on any one of 3 secondary crimes. We weren't told whether the jury found any one of those crimes, whether they found all 3 of those crimes. I'm not too sure we will know that. That's one of the many issues that I think presents reversible problems in this case. So what I would say is that this is a historic moment. We all have to take a breath. But for those upset by this verdict, remember this remains a country committed to the rule of law. And this is going to go up on appeal. I think it's going to be reversed in the state or federal systems. But it's moments like this when you're on the other side, when you disagree with a verdict, that you have to take a leap of faith in the rule of law. It's what defines us. Many people feel that this case really embodied the antithesis of that. But as a country as a whole, we have a system in place to review this. For Donald Trump, that's not going to happen before the election in all likelihood. But let's keep in mind that this is not the only court. It's just the first one.
Well, and there have also been jury trials and judges and decisions that have been made that have already been tough for the former president in other contexts too, in the business context, in another personal case involving E. Jean Carroll. I mean, there are other decisions that have been made against him that have been very difficult. They've been in New York. What do you think that portends or does not with these other cases we have pending? Georgia doesn't look like it's going to get to trial before we get to November. You've got the 2 federal cases. We're waiting for the Supreme Court decision on immunity, which could come as early as next Thursday. We get opinions then again. What will that case mean to all of these things that are pending or have already been decided? When it comes to this question, we heard the arguments there at the Supreme Court. There were 2 extremes. Anything and everything the president does, you can't question any of it. There must be full immunity from any kind of criminal activity. 2, there's nothing. There's no protection from him. We know the justices are going to land, we think, somewhere in between, not go with those extremes. But how critical now is that decision as we wait for that?
Well, it's very critical, both in terms of the law and the timing. The court did seem to reject the extremes on both sides. They didn't like the extremes of the Trump team in terms of the sweeping immunity, but they also didn't like the Court of Appeals approach. They felt that it gave too little recognition of the needs of the office. So they could end up sending this back for further evidence and for determinations by the trial court. It seems unlikely that the judge will be able to get that done before the election. Florida does not appear to be heading towards a trial before the election.
And that's the federal Mar-a-Lago documents
yes,
case.
and as someone like Andy and others who have dealt with classified trials, that is not strange. The Florida schedule is, if anything, moving at a fairly good clip. It what often takes years for these cases to get put together when you have this level of classification. The important thing about this case you pointed out before remains the optics. New York is being viewed by many as this vortex that won't let Trump out, that they keep on hitting him. And this is a major win for his critics. But the question is whether it's a bit of a Pyrrhic victory, because for many citizens, of all of the cases, this one embodied the weaponization of the legal system.
Wow.
And so the result won't come as a surprise.
People are
for
not
some,
dumb. People
adding
know.
the title of a convicted felon could affect their votes. For others, it could affect it the other way. For others, they are repelled by what they see out of New York. I must tell you, the reason I was sad in there was not for the former president. It was for the New York legal system. I've written, as many of us have, that this is a deeply flawed case. It's wrong. And this is a great legal system. I'm not a New York bar member. I'm not a DC. But I have huge amount of respect for this system. It has helped define the law in this country. Legal history was made here on this block. I'm looking at two courthouses where legendary cases were heard and handed down. It's part of our DNA as lawyers. So for many of us, it is a sad moment because we were hoping this jury might redeem a bit of that integrity. It did not. I'm not blaming the jurors. They got instructions that made conviction very likely here. I was one, as opposed to my good friend Andy here, who believed he'd get a verdict today and that it would be a conviction. I was one holding out for a possible hung jury because I believe this jury would see through this. But I'm not too sure you can blame them when you look at the instructions. When you allow a jury to potentially go 4-4-4 and disagree on what happened as to what crime was being concealed here, it makes it pretty hard to acquit.
Jonathan, I want to ask you too a little bit about the flavor inside, because you commented yesterday that there were, I guess it was 2 days ago during the summations, I was in for the defense in the morning, you were there for the prosecution in the afternoon, that you said when it looked like the prosecutor was mocking Trump or landing points that were bad for the defense or bad for Trump, that the media in the room was reacting to that.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
that it wasn't exactly neutral.
No, he knew his audience. The media in the room was laughing, and
we're supposed to be there just covering this as neutral arbiters of the news.
I was surprised. You know, these are journalists I hold to a higher regard than myself because I'm just a commenter. I'm just someone who gives opinion. But no, every one of those digs landed with that audience. And look, we all expected that there would be this human wave, not just of people here on the streets in Manhattan, but among a lot of the journalists. I think that with time, they will see the costs of all of this. What happened in that room comes at a cost. It comes at a cost of the rule of law. But the atmosphere in the room at the end, I must say, was solemn and it was riveting. No one moved. Now, it was funny because they really ramped up security right before the verdict came in. And the security said, nobody move, nobody stand. And there was a bit of a chuckle because no one was moving. Everyone was
Nobody's
frozen.
going anywhere when that verdict is coming
anywhere. The person that seemed the calmest was Trump. I mean, he continued to talk with his counsel. This did not seem to surprise him in the least. And I think that's probably a reaction of a lot of people. You basically got out of this trial what you thought you would get. For people that view this as a political trial, it is that on steroids. For those who believe this is long delayed justice, this is exactly what they hope for. But that final verdict, of course, will come in November.
So you are a very experienced defense attorney, to the point where if I get in trouble, you're my call. I want you to know from the jailhouse, it's going to be to Jonathan Turley. Please take my call. So you know what it's like to be disappointed, to be on the losing end of a verdict. But President Trump came out today, and this really fed into what his supporters love about him. We are going to keep fighting. We know that's a long process. You talked about questions about the New York legal system and how you feel this may reflect this trial court decision on that. What is your confidence in the appellate division or the appellate process here in New York?
This case is a little different because, quite frankly, I think the level of reversible error here really is quite considerable. It runs the waterfront of procedural to constitutional problems, including federal constitutional violations. I don't even see how you can meet the unanimity requirement in the way that this thing was instructed. Yeah, they were unanimous that some crime was being committed on that secondary crime, but it's apparently between the jurors and God as to what that crime was, unless there's going to be some release of a jury form. We haven't seen that jury form, so
and
we
no
don't know.
indication when you were inside that we would, or that there was a special verdict form?
No, and so we were all hoping that there might be a form that might bring clarity on that issue. But no, I think that in the end, you're going to have a reversal. I'm fairly confident of that. Now, in the New York appellate system, they have ruled for Trump. There are very good lawyers in the New York system and credible people who want the system to work the way it's designed. I got to tell you, I am eternally an optimist. I was an optimist about a hung jury, and I'm an optimist now about the appellate judges. I think at some point, people will step forward and say, enough. Hating this man is not enough. To forget the lack of the evidence. And once again, I do not blame this jury. They were given instructions that made it very easy to convict. And some of them might not have seen a real option not to, given how low these standards seem.
Okay, Jonathan Turley.
Click here.
This is what our country's coming to, guys. It is sad day in America, because this shows you how political our justice system can be. What happened to, if you did the crime, you do the time? But there were so many people that have been convicted, that have already done a lot of terrible things, never brought to trial. And like he said, the only reason why any of these charges were brought to trial was because if it was Donald Trump. But if it would have been somebody else, they wouldn't have ever brought them to trial. So guys, let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments below. I will end this video like this. Out of almost 1,000 votes, guys, 84% of you said Donald Trump is not guilty. So James Cook, all these guys that are throwing parties because Trump got a bad verdict. Hey, I understand, but let me tell you something. You're a handful of people that definitely think he's guilty. But this poll right here shows you almost 1,000 votes. 84% said, you know what? He's not guilty. Love you guys. Appreciate you. If you support Donald Trump, smash that like button and subscribe to join the family. We appreciate it. Listen, some of you said, are you a Trump fan? No, I am a fan that loves of a president that loves his country and that cares about this country. And what they did in court was wrong, guys. It didn't matter who it was. If it was Bernie Sanders in there and they did that to him, that'd have been wrong. Guys, love you. Appreciate you. Hey, let's make America great again. Have a great day, guys.